The Last X. Chapter 12. 1.12. Chen Yu took the bus to work as usual the next morning despite the rain. With headphones on to deflect Xiao Baobao fans, he idly traced the water drops winding down the window and mused on what time Heqiang would strike. The thrill of not knowing really was quite fun. When he arrived in front of the campus gates without incident, he figured he'd enjoy the wait some more. At that very moment, however, the whine of an engine approached. From behind Shaoli, a motorcycle raced toward the academy, seemed to slip on the wet pavement, then swerved to hurtle right at Shaoli. The boy paled and froze in panic, his long, trembling lashes concealing his cold gaze. From what little he'd noted during Heqiang's strategy discussions, today's rider was the same low-level thug who'd hit Shaoli with a car in the original plot. Chen Yu was willing and ready to suffer for the sake of his play, but he'd make sure the people who hurt him suffered more. As soon as he'd perceived the imminent attack, Chen Yu had clicked the button on his phone that would make his hidden guards' electronics go crazy and keep them from interfering. This was, after all, a moment he'd been anticipating. He couldn't have them ruin it. When the motorcycle was almost on top of him, Chen Yu twisted inconspicuously to dodge most of the impact, then sharply jerked the rider's arm down. With the abrupt pressure, the motorcycle that was already leaning towards the ground because of the turn wobbled and collapsed, crushing the rider's leg, and spun into a light pole. Watching the back of the motorcycle break into pieces, Chen Yu, who'd fallen on the ground, casually flicked over the nondescript lighter he'd brought just for this occasion. When he'd contemplated how to deal with the rider, he'd decided on leaving him alive to testify. Of course, he couldn't escape unscathed. The issue was, keeping him at the edge of death required fine control, which meant that Shaoli would have to uncharacteristically administer the sentence in plain sight unless he used some cumbersome tools and tactics. But as luck would have it, a flammable prop was involved in Heqiang's murder scheme, making it possible to maintain Shaoli's innocent image and also control the degree of torture by choosing when to extinguish the fire. The only variable was whether or not Chen Yu would have to puncture the fuel tank himself. Happily for the man, the wet weather today and Chen Yu's contentment at the effortless oil leak meant that he'd probably only be cooked medium rare. Ignoring the explosion and screams from the burning man, Chen Yu lay on the road and catalogued his injuries. A variety of scrapes and bruises, one mildly sprained wrist, the worst was the broken ankle from the fall. This much pain was nothing to Chen Yu, who had repeated so many pathetic deaths, so he half closed his eyes and relaxed. The guards who had looked away for a moment turned back at the noise to find that their charge had been hit by a motorcycle in that short span of time, and they rushed over just after Chen Yu helped the explosion to start. One of them cursed and called Assistant Ming Wu, while the other gingerly surveyed Shaoli's condition. Ming Wu, who was in the middle of a meeting with Zhao Kui and several Zhaojia elders, automatically reached out to turn off his phone and paused when he habitually checked and saw that it was Shaoli's guard. He hadn't dared to ask Zhao Kui what his relationship with Xiao Baobao was, but he could tell that the boy was very important. Zhao Kui glanced at him, so Ming Wu turned the screen to show him who it was. Zhao Kui's blood turned cold. Something must have happened to his baby for the guard to call. Smoothly dismissing the elders, he took the phone, walked into his office, and shut the door. "What is it?" he asked. The guard who'd expected Assistant Ming Wu stuttered, "Yes sir, during a moment of oversight, Mr. Xiao was involved in a motorcycle accident in front of the academy. We apologize, sir." Xiao was hurt? How bad? Is he conscious? Zhao Kui shook his head to clear his thoughts. Turn on the camera. Feeling something blocking the raindrops, Chen Yu fluttered open his eyes to find a sturdily built man holding a phone over his face. Was that Zhao Kui on the screen? Tired of the pain, Chen Yu decided to have him speed things along and whispered, "Mr. Zia, Jigag, I'm okay." Shaoli showed a small smile that brought out the blood on his cheek and forehead. Zhao Kui gripped his phone and covered his eyes. Look how silly his baby was, afraid he actually wouldn't answer if he called him Mr. Zhao, as if he could ever ignore him. And how could he say he was okay? Anyone could see he was bleeding. Zhao Kui forced himself to calm down and soothed in his magnetic voice, don't worry. I'll be there soon. Be good and let the guards take you to a Zhao family doctor for treatment until then, alright? Shaoli murmured in agreement and passed the phone back to the guard. The guard motioned for his partner to lift Shaoli into the car and walked away stiffly, waiting for Master Zhao's discipline. Explain. The icy stare bored into the unfortunate guard. Sweating, he didn't dare to hide anything and described everything that had happened. Zhao Kui listened while driving furiously to the closest Zhao airplane hangar, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Based on the timing of the guard's diversion, this obviously wasn't a random accident. Then the next question was, is the person who hit Shaoli there? The guard hadn't paid much attention to the burning man, but indeed he had fainted nearby. Flipping the man over and confirming that he was breathing, he responded, that he is, sir, but the motorcycle blew up and he has major injuries. Zhao Kui curled his lip. Just make sure he can still talk when I arrive. The guard shuddered and dumped the unconscious body into the trunk. This poor bastard would have been better off dying. Before he could pity others too much, Zhao Kui dropped an emotionless "As for your punishment, I'll finalize it once I get there" and hung up. The menace of Zhao Kui cut the transit time to the doctor in half. Both guards prayed that Mr. Zhao's injuries would be light, knowing that was the only thing that could save them. Several hours later, Zhao Kui quietly stepped into Shaoli's dark hospital room and meticulously examined him. His shaking hands stroked the messy hair and gently held the slender neck, as if to make sure the boy was truly breathing in front of him. At the touch, Shaoli's eyebrows wrinkled slightly. Zhao Kui paused, desperate to see his baby's clear eyes again but hesitant to rouse him. In the end he lulled, "Shh, sleep, Xiao, it's just me." When the boy's expression eased, he cautiously lay down and embraced the thin body, taking care to avoid jolting his cast. This time was much too close. Even if Shaoli wasn't ready yet, he couldn't leave him unprotected anymore. Thus, Chen Yu woke up the next morning in Zhao Kui's new ex-country house. Feeling the intense scrutiny from the man by his side, he simply rubbed his forehead. Did they not go through something like this already? A large hand held the nape of his neck and another massaged his temples, while a concerned murmur sounded by his ear. Xiao, does your head hurt? Hold on, let me call a doctor. I don't need to get my head checked, you do. Shaoli at last turned to meet Zhao Kui's eyes. Gag, I'm not in the hospital anymore? Chen Yu asked as diplomatically as he could. Zhao Kui nodded solemnly, stating, listen to me, baby. I know this will come as a shock to you, but what happened yesterday wasn't an accident. Chen Yu rolled his eyes in his heart, but his expression showed surprise, fear, and confusion. Shaoli instinctively gripped onto one of Zhao Kui's fingers, the delicate small fist appearing even lovelier than usual next to Zhao Kui's tanned, masculine hand. Zhao Kui's heart melted and he wavered on whether or not to dirty his baby's ears. Afraid that Shaoli would try to leave if he didn't understand, however, he cuddled the boy close and continued, there are some people out there who are trying to hurt you. It's safest if you stay with me for a while. And it'd be better if you distance yourself from your Xiao Baobao identity. Shaoli peered up and licked his lips nervously. Gag, you don't want me to perform as Xiao Baobao? After a slight hesitation, Zhao Kui admitted it. Squeezing the finger he was holding, Shaoli lowered his eyes, blushing slightly, and softly said, then, I won't. After all, he could do at least this much for his lover. Shaoli was usually docile except in matters about music, so Zhao Kui was rather surprised at his easy agreement. Is that okay? You don't mind? The boy raised his bright gaze and stretched up to kiss Zhao Kui's chin. Burying his head in the other man's neck, he whispered, "Gag, I want to give you everything you want, too." Zhao Kui was stunned for a moment. Wasn't that what he'd said to Xiao Xiao before about loving him? His heart filled with ecstasy felt like it was burning, and he trailed kisses up Xiao Li's neck. Breathing hotly into the red ear, he coaxed, "Baby, raise your head." Feeling Xiao Xiao shake his head and attach himself more closely to his chest, Zhao Kui laughed and teased, "Don't you love me? I want to look at you, so let me, okay." Xiao Li just clung onto Zhao Kui silently, but his implicit agreement that he loved him made Zhao Kui's whole body melt. He asked, "Really don't want to?" When the boy nodded adorably, he tempted, "Then how about you give me something else I want?" Xiao Li stalled briefly, but seeming to feel a bit guilty, he soon agreed. Zhao Kui grinned. "Here, why don't you give me a kiss? I'll close my eyes so you don't have to be embarrassed." Chen Yu cursed. This pervert genuinely thought he was taking candy from children. With the original owner's submissive personality, however, he couldn't refuse, so he covered Zhao Kui's eyes with his hand and pressed their mouths together. Immediately, Zhao Kui sucked Xiao Li's lip and held it between his teeth. Once Xiao Li parted his teeth, a hot tongue swept in, clinging to his own and running along every surface as if to claim it. The kiss was so vigorous that a silver pool of saliva leaked out of the corner of Xiao Li's mouth. Chen Yu's eyes blurred, and his thighs trembled faintly from the stimulation of Zhao Kui's hands stroking his waist. It'd been so long since he last felt such pleasure that he reflexively tried to get away, but before he could even shift, Zhao Kui forcefully sucked his neck and pinched his swollen nipples. In a gentle, husky voice, he asked, "Where do you think you can go in this condition, baby?" Just when Chen Yu opened his mouth to explain, Zhao Kui slipped a hand between his writhing legs, so that all he could do was moan. "Gag, help me gag." Zhao Kui's eyes turned red, and he quickly stripped both of them naked. "Baby, of course I'll help you." Caressing Xiao Li's silky white legs, he asked, "Because we love each other, don't we?" Lost in pleasure, Chen Yu nodded dazedly. Zhao Kui nibbled on the pink ear and enticed, "So we can let everyone know, right?" Chen Yu smirked. It appeared he needed to work harder if this man could think straight enough to try to trick him. His misty eyes turned to Zhao Kui, and he panted, "Gag, please, I can't wait, something feels like it's coming out." At the delicious sight before him, Zhao Kui's mind turned blank. "Baby, it's all right, come, then we'll get you ready to take me soon, please." For mercy and ambiguous whimpers sounded and lasted for hours. After it was over, Xiao Li lay face down on the huge bed, crying silent tears. Who knew his upgraded stamina would be so crucial in this sense? He shouldn't have been so hasty to accept this man. Zhao Kui entered the room with a cup of hot chocolate and caressed Xiao Li's bare back. Watching Chen Yu tremble when the hand reached his sensitive waist, Zhao Kui chuckled, "Ah baby, you can't, this is your first time. You need to recover, so have a drink first." Chen Yu shot a glare at this unjust accusation that he was begging for more, but with the still wet tear tracks and lips puffy from kissing, he instead appeared like a wronged little daughter-in-law who needed petting. Zhao Kui's eyes darkened, and he set aside the glass to lay down on top of Xiao Li. Biting Xiao Li's ear, he whispered, "Never mind, it seems you're all right, so we'll continue. Remember to keep still, or your cast will get dirty." Xiao Li quickly tried to turn around and argue that in that case, it'd be better not to roll around at all, but it was too late.